combination, it's more helpful, I think, to kind of get involved in some of the other issues first, and then you can kind of get, you can work your way back. Yes.
A couple of years ago, I heard Gary Wills speak, and he said that he really believed that all the changes that he as a liberal Catholic wanted to see, including the ordination of women and a few other things, that all of these things have happened in his lifetime. And he's easily 10 years older than I am. And at the same discussion, I was with a friend who's a Franciscan friar, and many years ago I had said to him, well, why don't you take final vows as a priest? And he said, well, I can't possibly do that in good conscience until women can become priests. A, do you agree with Gary Wills, and B, do you think what my friend is doing is effectively a protest?
Well, that's really interesting how your friend is doing. First of all, I think there's going to be a very clergy on this thing. There already is a very clergy.
I'm sorry, could you say
There
that?
is going to be a married clergy soon, because there already is a married clergy. I mean, but I think what you just, what your example shows, and what your example also shows, is that, as I was saying to the students this morning, change doesn't happen slowly and gradually, and everybody sort of moves incrementally towards, oh yes, and always say that this is good. Major changes like this happen in revolutionary ways. And I'm not the political scientist here, and I don't have the knowledge of all of this stuff goes on, you know, in the political sphere. But my sense is that, I mean, this is even true biologically. You know, you have little things and then you go, you know, so that they're, and you know, if it's going to happen, it's not going to be because we've sort of gradually moved in that direction. It's going to be something radical. And I think that many like myself are sort of, you know, hoping for something radical to happen soon. And it seems to me too that if a lot of people took the view that your friend took, we'd have a real crisis on our hands. You know, the church thing that has a shortage of vocations, no, that would really do it. So it's, my thinking about this is that I think there will be some changes, but I don't like to predict history because it's there's an impetus to what happens that I think it doesn't always organically emerge, you know, from one event to the next.
My name is Maureen A. I go to the same church that ladies go to. I just wanted to give some insight into kind of the grassroots what's going on in church. I belong to a small group called the Catholic Women's Advocacy Group. And when we started like 40, 50 people, men and women, and gradually it lessened to a dozen. And one of the reasons was that it was a generational thing, frustration, and that's really not changed. And other people not understanding what that meant between men and women, and what that meant within the marital relationship and the relationship between men and women, and then a younger generation who really isn't interested in this, never experienced this type of repression. They hear about it, but they have not personally experienced it yet. And what we found was that we did need men, we wanted men in the group. We have single, divorced, gay, married. And one of the problems that we're having, as we discussed last night at the meeting, is that we want to integrate what we call the masculine side with the feminine side. And how do we do this together? And what we just, when somebody new came in and questioned us about the focus of our group, and we said, we couldn't say anything except to say that it was evolving. And that we see ourselves, those of us who stuck it out this change over a year where we went down drastically, is that we're waiting. And that at the point we're waiting because we somehow sense, not that it's about to happen, but we sense it is happening. And that we want you to be prepared. And that surprised me when that came up, and that it was echoed by other people. And it's difficult because there is this play when we're asked what we do, kind of define it in a masculine or feminine way. And it's we have to almost keep saying we're a man and woman, we call ourselves the women's group because we're about women's issues. But we keep inviting the men because that's the only way it's gonna happen.
Yeah, well, and it's only when men see this as an issue that it's of significance to them as well. Just a couple things. The language of masculine side and feminine side, I always get a little nervous about because those are social constructions, you know, in and of themselves as well. And we all have different sides that tend to get labeled in particular ways. But I think what you bring up is really the real challenge, that as long as women's issues are seen to be women's issues and not issues, then it will continue to be a marginalized sort of issue. And it's only when these issues, and I think it's when men experience, at least sometimes in the church, being treated like women, which means, you should go aren't you well, aren't you cute, or whatever. And I think a number of lay people with this whole the clergy sex abuse crisis have come to realize that that we all, men and women, lay people, find ourselves in a sense being treated like the women of the church, that it's not just women's issues, it's the larger issues about how we are to be a community together. And so I think as long as the issues are seen only as women's issues, then they're not going to be taken seriously. But when these same issues, I think, and that's unfortunately the way that things work, when they, and I don't want to say that when they become mainstreams, but when fathers see what happens to their daughters, that's often when it happens, or when men and women in their own experiences see how these issues are not just, oh yes, these angry women over here, but that in fact affects everybody. That's when things are going to happen, and I think that's what's happening with the clergy sex abuse crisis, in part, is that there's a realization that people have not been treated as both human beings and are pretty community. Do we need to stop?
So, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.